I feel like this could be my most important video, or at least the one I wish became important. It won't be, but maybe it'll be an important video for you. Hey everybody, Matt Colville here. This is the Downtime video, and it is an important one to me. You know, almost everything, maybe actually everything we do in D&D, we also do in video game RPGs. I mean, apart from the social and collaborative part, and that is super important. But in terms of narrative and adventure and emotion, you can find all the same stuff in video games. Mass Effect, Last of Us, Red Dead, even God of War. Games that aren't traditionally considered RPGs can have a lot of narrative and emotionality. Character growth, both internal and external. Lots of player agency and player choice. You, as a player, may invent some solution to a problem that the designers or the dungeon master hadn't thought of, but I have been a designer on a big open world sandbox video game, 2 of them, in fact, and that happens all the time. So that's not unique to tabletop. To me, the one thing that really separates what can be done in tabletop versus video games has to do with ambition. And it usually happens in downtime, which I think is missing from a lot of games. It's certainly missing from the Chain of Acheron game. Here's what I mean. An adventure. Doesn't matter which one, but you're a new DM, and if all you do is follow the official products, you will develop a very specific way of thinking about the game. You need these books. You don't need a campaign setting, notice, and we'll talk about that soon, but you must need an adventure, right? I mean, they make them, and they're a big production. Epic. Big books that take more than a year to play, easy. There are more adventures than there are core books, so adventures must be important, right? And since these are the official adventures, that means for new dungeon masters, this is what an adventure is, a one plot line covering many levels that takes months or years to play, and the only difference is this one is hex crawly, this one is a heist, and this one is dungeon crawly. This is what Wizards of the Coast makes, and the products in an RPG line tell you how the product is intended to be played. You know, D&D has a monster manual. Lots of games don't. Why? Well, Wizards of the Coast is trying to tell you this game is about killing monsters. It's a fair statement. Other games don't have a monster manual because that's not what they're about. Like, you watched us play Paranoia, right? Why would that game need a monster manual? Similarly, these are the adventures they make, so a new player concludes this must be what an adventure is. And listen, these are incredibly well made, well put together. I think they're amazing, and I very much approve of the fact that the community are all basically playing the same small set of adventures. It means we're all talking about the same things. We all have the same reference points, and that makes the community stronger. No shade on the writers or designers. They are doing vital work. But it sends a message. This is how the game is played. There are rules for downtime in the DMG, but I think they are misleading because they treat downtime as basically a mini game. You want to build a stronghold, you want to run a business or sell your magic items, well, make some rolls and you do it. This is wildly out of alignment with what I'm used to. And because of the way I screwed up with the Chain of Acheron, which we will talk about in this video, you may not know how I screwed up. So here is my all-time favorite D&D story, literally number 1. It's about downtime. When I was a teenager and I started playing D&D, my first character was a paladin. At the time, I didn't have any particular affinity for the class, but a friend of mine in my first session suggested one and I said, sure. Well, this is a fantasy world where the gods were objectively real. So whenever I got in a jam, I would pray to my god. And because I was the kid who liked to role play, do voices and get into character and just talk to NPCs, my dungeon masters would tend to reward me by having my god answer my prayers. There were a set of house rules floating around for praying and what you could get, and they're basically the same as the concordance rules for NetHack, which we updated in Strongholds and Followers. But the upshot was I was often being rewarded just for my style of play, and the other players felt like this wasn't fair. They were right. It was not fair. So new campaign, new character, and I'm going to roll a paladin again because I only got to 6th level with that last character, and I want to see some of the neat stuff they get later. My friend Dave sees this and he's sort of disgusted. Oh, here we go again. But he reasons correctly that any character can serve a god. You don't need to be a paladin or a cleric. Hey, Brad, he asks our DM, is there like a god of magic in your world that my wizard could worship? Brad tosses out a couple of Greyhawk gods that fit the bill, and Dave seems uninterested. Then Brad says, well, there's the Dominator. He's like a god of magic. That was all it took. Dominator? He sounds like my kind of guy. Weeks pass and we're in a jam, and Dave's wizard, Kale, prays to the Dominator. Brad rolls behind the screen. I don't think concordance was ever more than that, but there were tables to make it easy for the DM to fake a degree of rigor. He tells Dave, you hear a voice in your head saying, "Free me." That's it. That's all. Does anything happen? I mean, apart from that, no, not as far as you can tell. Dave frowns. Here's the thing. That kept happening. Every time Dave prayed, he got some variation of "free me." So we finished an adventure. I don't remember which one it was, and we've got some downtime. We're all going to go off on different personal quests. And Dave is like, well, I guess I could go see if I could free my god. This was normal. We'd play D&D in one DM's campaign for a couple of months, finish an adventure, and then stop. Other DMs would run or we'd play board games. But during that time, we kept playing D&D with that DM, just not as a group. This was before texting and group chat and Discord and even email, all of which make this a lot easier. But we hung out often enough that we could talk and plan what we wanted to do next, and the DM would get together with us in ones and twos, usually only for one session or maybe two, and sometimes you could do the whole thing in the car on the way to the arcade. Big building full of people all playing video games. Because a lot of what we wanted to do was negotiation and politics, and it didn't always require combat, so you could do it in the car. Hell, my DM had dice in his car explicitly for this reason. Just roll on the dashboard or in the cup holder. That was downtime. They were little mini adventures, but they weren't always die rolling and combat. Sometimes they were just interludes, but they had impact. It was like you're reading X-Men or the Avengers, and between two issues, something happened to Iron Man or Wolverine, and you don't know what, because they were off having their own solo adventure in someone else's comic book, or they got their own limited series. This was exactly the same. The party were the adventures, and we adventured together, but we also had our own comic books, so we could advance our own personal agendas. Each of us had stuff we wanted to do on our own, not part of the group. And no one told us to do that. It was just how we played. Probably we learned it from the older kids, but here's the secret. As soon as one player develops a personal goal, ambition, something they want to do on their own, well, the other players pretty quickly think, that is cool, I want to do that, and they start thinking about what their character wants. Some players never do, and that's fine. It's not required. So the summer passes and we're playing all sorts of games, D&D and other campaigns, Talisman, Axis and Allies, and I have my own downtime adventure with my friend Devlon. And then months later, Brad says he's ready for the next adventure. We get together to play, and since it's been months since the last time we met as a group for this campaign, we're all talking about what we had done since the last time, and we made it a point not to talk about our side quests between adventures. It spoiled the fun, even though we really, really wanted to. In fact, now that I think about it, that's what we called them. We didn't call it downtime. We called them side quests. The difference is the way downtime is presented in the DM's guide, there's only a few things you can do. You spend some money, you roll some dice, and that's it. And a lot of the downtime activities just, they're not that interesting. I think it's one reason people don't do them that much. But for us, downtime, time between adventures, was a chance to do our own thing. And yeah, just spend some money and roll dice is easier. And for a lot of groups, getting together to play requires scheduling and it's a pain. But that's what makes side quests so easy. It's just you and the DM, or maybe you and another player in the DM. And you can do it all in chat or in Discord or just in the car. I mean, sometimes we'd, actually get together and play stuff out. Sometimes it really was like a little mini session of D&D. But even that is way easier to schedule than getting everyone together. It is easy to do, and it's fun, is my point, which is why we did it. So my character comes back from his side quest, and I had this dope new shield I had recovered, which became the template for the shield of Andrim in my campaign at Turtle Rock, and I had been made a duke by the Lord Mayor of Greyhawk. My friend John had rescued a bunch of elves and was busy setting them up in their own forest. And we asked Dave what he had been up to. I think, I don't know. I went and tried to free my, my god, the Dominator. And I think something bad happened. Bad, like you lost a magic item? No, not like that. Well, did you free him? No, he's like in a crypt and he's surrounded by these, I think they're basically like the Nazgul and they're all imprisoned with him. And I think I accidentally set them all free. You did what? I mean, I don't remember exactly how it happened, except I completed the ritual. And these Nazgul guys, they're called the Taken. They woke up and they figured out what I was trying to do. And they stopped me because apparently the Dominator is super evil. And even though these guys are really evil, they do not want that dude back alive. So now they're free to roam the world and they've assembled an army of darkness in the south. And they're in the process of trying to conquer the world. And so that was the thing we spent the last year or so of Brad's campaign dealing with, including the one time one of the Taken came by and melted my friend Dave's war elephant. This is maybe the most spectacular plotline I've experienced in D&D, and I wasn't even there. It was Dave's adventure. It took a year to set up, and then we spent the next year dealing with the fallout. Brad was a big fan of the Black Company. He's the one that introduced us to it, but at this point, we hadn't read it. We didn't know anything about it. He didn't just lift the plot of the books. He manipulated Dave over the course of a year of play into doing the things that happen in the books without Dave even realizing it. I am not that good a DM. That is a cooler reveal than anything that's happened in any D&D game I've ever heard of. And Brad did it when he was 19. I don't want you to draw the wrong conclusion. The point of this isn't to manipulate your players into freeing the 10 liches who guard their dead evil god. That was just the most spectacular example. The point is that downtime is an opportunity for your character to pursue their own goals, which, yes, can sometimes mean getting yourself in over your head, getting in trouble. Those stories are cool too. That is the power of downtime, the power of letting players be self-directed, play asynchronously, meaning we're all playing at different times. And it's something I think is sorely missing from the game these days, because I think that kind of play, where we all have our own goals and the means to achieve them, goals we invented, is something you can't do in any other game. Lots of AAA video games have elaborate storylines and romance and betrayal and mystery and dragons and whatever. But in D&D, you can invent your own goals, and the DM will provide you the opportunity to achieve them, and it will all look and feel like it was planned that way. It's a story, but it's your stories. Another way of thinking of it is we would play regular D&D for 2 or 3 months, and then we would play West Marches style for a while. Asynchronous, the players determining their goals and the DM creating custom content for it. Then we would leave the open world and go back to a normal adventure. You know, sometimes we were Wolverine off on our own. Sometimes we were the X-Men as a team working together. We liked both. We'd get frustrated if it were only ever one or the other. I don't normally do this, so I must really believe it, but I think this is a better way to play than the constant adventure mode, where the DM is just supposed to run one epic adventure for a year and a half without a break. If the only Marvel movies were Avenger movies, it wouldn't have the same meaning. Endgame has meaning because we spent a lot of time with just Tony Stark, just Captain America in their own movies. Because we've gone on solo adventures with these characters, we know them really well. We get to know them way better than we ever could in an Avengers movie where they're sharing the screen with 12 other characters. The reason I cared about whether the X-Men were going to save the universe, the reason I cared whether or not they lived or died, is because I had seen Wolverine in Japan on his own adventure. I watched Kitty Pryde alone defend Xavier's mansion from Sidri bounty hunters. Those moments let us see inside the souls of the characters in a way we rarely get to do in the big, epic, save the world team adventure. We may be almost done with this video because I don't know what else to tell you other than this style of play exists, it can be done, and I don't think you need any more. No one taught us how to do downtime when we were teenagers. We just did it. It just took knowing that it was possible. I guess the way you do it is you run modules. That's what we used to call adventures. We called them modules because they were short. Maybe you gained 3 levels during the entire thing, maybe only 1. And they were each a self-contained story, so you could run them in any order you wanted. They were modular. Assemble them however you like. Much easier to read, much easier to prep than a 256-page hardcover book. Then a downtime adventure is even shorter than that, a side quest, something you can run in 1 or 2 sessions or just do the whole thing in chat. You don't even need to be online at the same time. And unlike this model, which is very ambitious and production intensive, you can outline your own adventure in like a weekend and have the first session ready that week, no problem. We did a video on that, but it wasn't very good, so we'll do it again. This is closely related to the one-on-one D&D video I promised you folks, how to play D&D just the Dungeon Master and 1 player, which we will get to. Almost all of my players' favorite, most intense experiences in D&D happened in these side quests, which is what you'd expect, right? The Avengers have epic battles and save the universe, but Captain America in his comic also struggles with relationships and being a man out of time. The solo adventures are always more personal. We were playing D&D at Pandemic Studios, and the players were overwhelmed and had to retreat. Well, one of them, my friend Lara's character, was captured by the Necromancer and taken below to be sacrificed. The players were freaked out. They were way too beat up to go rescue her without resting, but if they rested, she was going to die. This, by the way, classic Matt Colville setup. Drama, the no-win scenario. Except, as you should know by now,
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
My friend Wallace decided to change the conditions of the test. He was uniquely qualified to do so. He was playing an undead PC, not a revenant like a suave vampire or an undead lawyer. He was playing a ghoul, a literal ghoul from the monster manual. He smelled, he had bits falling off him, he couldn't talk. He had joined the party because he was driven to right some wrong that occurred while he lived, and while he was deeply creepy, he was super useful and they weren't in a position to be picky about their teammates. So Wallace messages me the next day at work and he says, "Hey, it's all like zombies and ghouls down there, right? As far as you know." Well, would they treat me like one of them? Could I get down there and rescue Lara without any of them attacking me? The trick is, and this is so important, you have to say yes without making it seem like you're saying yes. You really want the player to have to commit to it. And if you just say yes, even with a but afterwards, they're going to think you're giving them permission. But it shouldn't be about your approval. It should be about their decision. Their responsibility has to feel earned, like they're taking matters into their own hands. That's when things really become extraordinary. When the player knows, I invented this idea. It's on me. So I always try to say yes without making it seem like I'm saying yes. Well, I said, the ones you've seen so far have been pretty mindless, but who knows what's down there? I didn't say yes or no. I said, here's what you know, with a reminder that you don't know everything. Here's what you know. You make a decision. I'm not going to say, yes, I'm not going to give you permission. The idea is yours, sure, but so must be the decision to do it. He was new to the game, and so far D&D had been this thing we did every Thursday night, so he didn't even know solo play was possible. He asked, well, how would it work? And I, knowing he was in new territory, said, you just tell me you want to do it, and we'll figure it out. He said, okay, I want to do it. And right then, that day, that moment, we started playing D&D in chat. We got no work done that entire day. I was using an adventure I had already developed, so I was ready, and we did the whole thing in chat with him walking over to my desk every once in a while to make die rolls, stealth, bluff. He failed some, and some guards noticed him, and he had to do some quick thinking, but it worked. It all worked. He found Lara's character tied to an altar, a new tattoo marking where her heart was because they'd been planning on carving it out in a ritual. Oh, that's why people say I'm old school. Yeah, fair enough. Heist mechanics and solo play both require the same thing. Hey everybody, Matt Colville here, and this is a preview of the one-on-one D&D video. They both require lots of fail states for every task. Just pass, fail can be catastrophic, and it also lacks drama. There have to be lots of fail states. The guards heard you. The guards are coming over. The guards are arguing about what's going on. The guards question you. The guards give you an order. Each one of these is another cascading fail state, which does two super important things. It stops the adventure from collapsing because the player rolled once poorly, and it ratchets up the tension. That is incredibly efficient and necessary design. They can fail, but keep playing, and the drama ratchets up. Wallace emerges from the dungeon with Lara's character's unconscious body, and the rest of the players are astonished. This was Wallace's first campaign, and later, like years later, I asked him what he thought of D&D. He was polite. He said it was fun, but he said nothing was as cool as the solo adventure we did. I think Gertz said the same thing about his solo adventure, which we streamed and is on YouTube. That technically was a downtime adventure. The players were resting between encounters, and Wallace's ghoul just shambles off while everyone's sleeping, and he has his own self-motivated adventure. It was smaller in scope, way more immediate, reactive to what was happening in the group adventure, but structurally, that's exactly how downtime works. We're not playing right now, and there's something you want to accomplish. Only thing it takes is you, the player, having wants, having a motivation, having your own personal ambition. When the DM describes the world, remember, all of these things are real. In the context of the secondary world, these people and places and organizations are real, and there's nothing stopping you from achieving whatever you want. Only in tabletop can you invent your own motivations. Even in something like Minecraft, if the designers don't permit it, it can't be done. You can't decide, oh, I want to awaken some of these trees and have my own Ent buddies. Nope, the devs didn't think of it, so you can't do it. But you absolutely can do that in D&D. Notice the subject of this video has changed. I was talking to dungeon masters, but now I'm talking to players. Share this video with your players. Let them know, hey, this fake world we're playing in is real to your characters. So it's okay to decide you want to do something. It's okay to have ambition. What's your character's ambition? Okay, back to Dungeon Masters. So creating adventures is outside the scope of this video, and the next Running the Game video is about skill dogpiling, but we will do a video on adventure design that should help you out. I don't think it's a coincidence that many of my players' favorite, most intense sessions, and my all-time favorite D&D story all happened during downtime. I think it's a critical part of what lifts this hobby above the scripted narrative of video games. And while I think the official adventures are amazing, they do rely on a wildly different set of assumptions. One big adventure, epic overarching plotline spanning 10 or 12 levels played out over a year or two. If that's to your taste, these are great. I love running mega adventures like this. It's great when someone else has done all the heavy lifting, and all you have to do is spend an hour or two before the game reading ahead to find out what happens next. But there is another way to play, one I think is easier, smaller, bite-sized adventures which you can make yourself. But you don't have to. There are literally thousands of them out there already. That's why folks created adventurelookup.com to make it easier to find those adventures. Way easier to read a 32-page adventure and be ready to play and know the whole thing inside and out than one of these beasts. In fact, if I have one major regret about the Chain of Akron, it's that I didn't do it this way from the beginning. I didn't even think about it. I just thought, well, I guess I'll just stream every week forever until I drop dead. Bad idea. What I should have done was play out one adventure 4 to 6 weeks, take a few weeks off, then stream the next adventure. Because I had all sorts of plans for what the chain could do in Capital. Cool little urban adventures that don't really make sense for the entire team, but would be a blast as a solo or duo adventure. Like, think of all the action movies you love that would be easy to rip off for D&D, but that only star one character. Die Hard. Totally easy to do in D&D. That's not one of the things I wanted to do. That's just an example. Although now that I think about it, I gotta make a note. So that's how I intend to run the chain from here on out. Even if we do a big adventure, which we might, it'll have chapters to give us breaks. And during those breaks, you will see some downtime. Solo adventures or duo adventures or just an interlude with role playing and no die rolling. Speaking of which, we will be on Twitch tonight playing, I think, Red Dragon Inn. Maybe tune in and check it out this time. Okay, let's put it all together. You don't need to run a massive mega adventure. You run a series of shorter modular adventures that are easier to prep. You take breaks between adventures so other people can run or you can play other games. And in between, your players decide what they want to do. And it's okay if only one player has an idea. That's great. Start small. Just one side quest. Easy. You run a side quest for that one player. Doesn't even have to be both of you at the table. You can do it over chat here and there over the course of several days. The next time you all get together to play the next adventure, that player has had their own solo story. And when the other players find out, they're going to want their own. And now you have a richer campaign, one I think is easier to run, and you get more in-depth stories that focus on a single character. I mean, Gertz and I played a solo game, and he reunited with a grandfather he never knew he had. That was crazy. That's it, folks. That's the Downtime episode. I hope something in here was useful. We will be streaming here on YouTube, normal Hangout stream, where we talk about whatever, which we do several times a week on Twitch, but I realize many of you hate Twitch. So whenever we upload a running the game video like this, I want to make sure we do a YouTube stream later that week. Next video, a little more technical, we're going to talk about skill dogpiling and how you can prevent it. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want an alert when there's a new video, you got to subscribe and then hit the little bell icon. Then you'll get an alert on your mobile device. Our patrons get to read the script for videos like this early. So come by Patreon if you want to see how the sausage is made. Come by our website if you want to buy a cool shirt or a copy of Strongholds and Followers. The Kingdoms and Warfare Kickstarter is done, but the Pledge Manager will be launching soon, and folks will be able to go in and pre-order the book if you missed the Kickstarter and add stuff to your pledge like cool new minis or whatever you think is neat. Next video, skill dogpiling. Until then, peace out.